So, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Secrets of the Viz. Today, I have Arjen here with me to share a little bit about his 2024 health data Viz, which is based on his Apple data. So, over to you, Arjen, to give an introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Louis, for having me. My name is Arjen Groeneveld. I'm located in Amsterdam and I run a small creative data visualization studio here called Big Mountain. It's a loose group of data scientists, programmers, and designers. And together we tackle all kinds of data viz, information design projects.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, managing a consulting business, what are the challenges around that?
Well, it sounds really nice, but if you call it like that, I prefer calling it a small studio. But yeah, we talk about how to improve data communication. And to me, the biggest challenges, I think, are to actually get clients to believe in the benefits of better data communication. That's always a challenge. People always think it's just a way to make the data look nice.
So, what are your typical clients like? There's so many different industries. What do you focus mainly on?
It's actually very diverse. I did do a lot of things in health data. That's also why the health viz was inspiring to me to look at. Also, I work a lot with the municipality of Amsterdam. So it's like city data. It can go any direction.
That's interesting. So, coming back to this Viz of the day, what was the inspiration behind? Was it a health journey that you took?
I think a bit of both. I made a similar chart in 2022 about kite surfing, and because I do it here on the North Sea, and I was visualizing all circumstances at the kite spot that are important for kite surfing. I made a big radial chart of wind direction, wind gusts, rain, and temperature, but the final step of putting everything together into one Tableau piece was still missing. I exported everything to Illustrator and put everything together there. So it was a bit unfinished business for me. I was looking to make something similar, but to have it totally in Tableau. The other part of the story is that I was measuring my health data for the entire year. So I did a really big export of all the data that was there.
So, I have also looked at the Apple iWatch data, and I know for a fact that it's not something that is easy to work with because Apple makes it extremely difficult for you to export the data and to
Yeah.
read the data because it's a huge XML file. So, how do you go around cleaning up that data? Because it's obviously a lot of work.
I tried to put the XML into Excel, but that was actually quite difficult. There's probably other ways to go about it, and you could probably program something that would get the data out more easily. But in this case, I just started looking into what parts of the XML I found interested and just copy pasted it into Excel, which was a lot of work.
No.
But in the end, there's only three variables that were of interest to me. The rest of the variables are calculated from that.
So, how did you decide on using a Radial chart to create this?
Yes, when you think about visualizing a year or an hour or a week or a month for that matter, it's nice to put it in a circle because it comes back to the beginning.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for it to be in a circular radio chat. Walk us through a little bit on the design elements and how you came from this to the final version, which I think only has two or three different tones of colors.
Yeah, I had been looking at the way that iPhone was presenting it as my first inspiration. I mean, I like the iPhone way of presenting data. I think they're very good designers at Apple. So I was looking to duplicate that also with the colorful gradient in the back and the nice overview on the left hand side. But then this was my first idea. I actually posted this on Twitter also, and I thought it was finished. But then after a week or so, I was like, yeah, it's not really my way. It's not really how I would present it. So I came back to it, got rid of the gradient in the back, made it look a bit more simple, and threw away a lot of the colors and the extra information that is there. For example, the icons that are actually from Apple, I left out because I thought they were just cluttering the whole piece. So I wanted to make it look simpler. And the way I once envisioned it That's what I ended up with.
Cool. I also realized that you have two data points here that are explicitly called out. One in February 24,
All
where
right.
you did hiking and skiing, and the other in August, where you did hiking in Bulgaria. Is there a
True.
story behind that?
Well, the funny thing is then when you start looking at your year in this way, there are a couple of interesting points, I guess, where you either make a lot of steps or burn a lot of energy. At one glance, you can see directly where these points are. Then I was looking at, okay, where was I? What was I doing? Because not everything is tracked. I mean, I don't go to the gym. I don't have a smartwatch. So it doesn't have everything. But if I go hiking or skiing, or if I'm in the mountains, I have my iPhone with me. So there were 2 points that really stood out. The most prominent, I guess, is in August 24. I always go hiking with friends once a year in the summer. We were in Bulgaria last year. We had some very long and very difficult days with a lot of steps, and that's actually quite visible in the viz. And the other one was skiing in February, also with friends, go once a year, but we hike up the mountain a lot as well. Sometimes it's flat, and sometimes there's an enormous amount of steps that are made in February, and that's when we actually hike up a mountain to ski down. Yeah. And the other thing that I did notice about my overall amount of steps, it's not that much. I'm pretty active. I mean, I have a dog. I walk my dog 3 times a day, even more. But overall, it's not that high. Some other high points where I make a lot of steps, and that's always relatable to something that I did, like when running with my phone. So you can directly track it back to what you did.
So I think the one thing is also because you don't own a Apple iWatch,
Yeah.
so the accuracy of the steps are probably not as accurate as having a watch with yourself, because you said you are pretty active, you walk the dog every day. So I'm guessing your steps will probably be higher, maybe closer to
Mm.
8 to 9,000 if you had like an iWatch or something. And I gotta ask, like, is hiking your favorite sports? Because I can't help but notice that your company is named Big Mountain,
Yes.
and you go hiking twice a year, or maybe even more, with your
Yes,
friends.
true. No, that's totally related. I've been going to the mountains for all my life. In Holland, there are no mountains, so you have to go to Switzerland or France. And I find the mountains just extremely inspiring. When I was thinking of a name for my company, the name Big Mountain, quite obvious. It's a place for me to get inspired, to get new ideas, to get rest. It's a great place. Yeah. So that's why it's called Big Mountain.
Nice. I think that fits you perfectly. I also noticed that you have another verse that is called the Seven Summits. How many of that seven have you scaled?
None. I don't think any. No.
So just like normal hikes across the mountains and not climbing.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I have not done any real high summits. I always try to be on top of a mountain, but it's not the highest in any continent. I did climb the third highest mountain in Africa,
Is that the most memorable one that you had?
definitely the highest. It's like 5,000 meters and something.
That's pretty
Uh,
high.
that's quite high, yeah, exactly. And it's just a few meters lower than Mount Kenya in Africa.
So what's your favorite part about hiking and climbing up mountains?
Yeah, that's a good question. I, th- I guess it,
Just
I
the
guess it,
journey of it.
yeah. I mean, it's a combination of physical challenges, being out there in a different environment that we are used to. It's an environment you feel very close to the elements, right? I don't know. It's inspiring.
Yeah. I feel that the photos that you take on top of the summit doesn't do any justice because the view is just magnificent. I mean, you probably could bring a $10,000 worth of camera up and take a really good picture, but if you just have your trusty iPhone with you, you won't be able to capture the brilliance of the nature and the elements and stuff like that. Because when I had my second kid, I was probably in the worst shape of my life, but I
Mm.
still went to climb out Mount Fuji. And I'm really glad that I did it because it was such a torture just to get up to the top. The entire journey took me about 13 hours. I was probably the last one because of my fitness level. But reaching the top was really inspiring, and it brings a different light, a different feeling to you. All your worries seems very minuscule compared to the world itself. But I hated going down the mountain because it was so painful and because they had sandy slopes. So if you
Ah,
slip or you miss a footing, you just slide down and hit your bum and everything. So we had to tread backwards down with the hiking
ah,
stick and all.
oh,
But
yeah,
yeah, the most torturous time of my life, I
yeah,
would say.
yeah. But that's funny that you tell this story because I always tell a story about a mountain in Australia, and the journey itself was amazing, whereas the being on the summit was terrible. There was no view, there was just clouds. I had no water, I had no food. It was all terrible. But it was a journey to there that I always tell stories about because it was just amazing. And I thought about going back a few times, but then I thought, no, there will be no story. The journey is the inspiring part. There were spiders, there were snakes, there were leeches, there was rain. It was all terrible, but it was the journey that was really amazing, and the story that I always tell too.
But it's kind of like life in general as well, right?
Yes, yeah, yeah, for sure.
Cool. So is there any mountain that you are like putting it on your bucket list to climb one day? Mount Everest?
Ooh, no, 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 no. I don't think so. I think it's very crowded, and I guess I'm more of a hiker than an alpinist. But there's a mountain that I've been going to my whole life, which is the Eiger in Switzerland. And the Eiger North Face is a climb which is like a classic, difficult, almost vertically up, and quite impossible to climb. I mean, there's many stories about it. I'm not a climber, so I would never try that, but I would like to stand on top of the mountain, which is actually quite easy. You can walk on the side, you can walk straight up. That is something that I would still like to do.
Sounds good. So this has been really insightful. Thank you again, Arjen, for spending time with us today to talk about your health viz. I think this is really inspiring on how you actually got from one stage to another, how you iterate through the colors and design to get the story that you want to tell. I hope everyone learned something new from this. And we'll see everyone at the next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis.